I'm gonna have to click on the screen to put people's messages. Good evening, everybody. We're live. I'm here with Coach Paul. I hope you guys can hear us okay.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah, and we actually were chatting offline, so we are 1 minute late. Did you have dinner ready, Paul?
Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm all I'm gonna try not to get too tired here. I've got a belly full of chicken and rice. So
Oh my God, that's much better than what I had. I'm not going to tell you what I had because it's not that interesting. Um, so, yeah, let's kick this off. This is our monthly coaching call in which Coach Paul and I talk about how the training has been going for me and then talk about this month's training. And I just looked at it as I was, like 15 minutes ago, I opened the schedule.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I'm
Okay, I'm
ready.
really
I'm
happy
ready.
to get your feedback. It should be interesting. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Just to let everybody know, yeah, Susie hasn't had much chance to look at this because I just put the finishing touches on her March training schedule like earlier today. I got my last look at it just to make sure everything was where I wanted it to be. So you'll definitely be getting Susie's raw reactions tonight.
Yeah. So, well, the vibe really, the good thing is that I think I have found the rhythm with the, like every day has kind of the same vibe to it, which is good because then you know what to expect and your body knows what to expect. So
Exactly.
I've noticed that the track intervals are different.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I wanted to know why. So far I've been doing, on Tuesdays, I was doing 400s,
Yep.
800s,
Hmm.
1600s, which is a mile, and then 800s, 400s.
Yep.
But now that has changed. And why?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, like just to kind of give people the big picture, the overall structure here, for anybody who hasn't watched any of our sort of former live streams, I started you off with just kind of easy runs, building your mileage, getting your mileage base up. Then we started introducing a little bit of speed with strides. We didn't really do much in the way of like hill sprints or anything like that, but then we started to kind of introduce a little bit um, longer speed intervals, in the form of like 1 mile tempo runs separated by a little bit of space. And then now we're growing those tempo runs as well to where you're doing 2 and 3 mile tempo runs later in the week, a couple of days after your Tuesday track days. And now that I've seen you over the last past couple of weeks or so handling the speed, like these kind of track intervals, in March, as we get past sort of the base building and get past the strength building, and you've proven that your body's handling it very well, um, now what we see is sort of a sharpening of the speed work. We're getting into basically the last stage of preparations before the taper for the half marathon. So what you're seeing now on Tuesdays is like every other week, you're going to get basically what you're used to: a couple of 400s, a couple of 800s, a 1600, and then we ladder back down. But every second week in between those, we're doing a very shortened track day where you're just getting a taste of that stuff, where, with less demand on you, I'm hoping that you start to run them faster. But the thing that's also equally as important is you're not getting as much volume on your track days because we're trying to save some of that strength that you've been burning for your Thursday runs, because now you're getting into 3 mile tempo runs. You've got an upcoming 5K time trial to sort of,
I know.
put a
I was
book in.
excited.
Yeah, I mean, we started you off on this whole journey with a 10K time trial to see where your current level of fitness was at, just so that I could level set for the beginning of all this. And now, as we get very close to taper time, it's time to see exactly what your progress, has amounted to. So, yeah, the 5K time trial, which happens on March 16th, is a big deal.
Yeah.
Even though
I'm excited.
yeah, I mean, even though it's a time trial. Hey, Brian, how's it going? Even though it's a time trial, I want you very much to treat it as a race. Like, go out there and give it your everything. I think it will give us a very good indication of exactly, like, within a minute either direction of what we can expect for you on the half marathon. So
Okay, cool.
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to ask something and I lost my train of thought. So yeah, I noticed that the track workouts they used to be 6 miles and now it's going to be 5 miles.
Yeah. Since you don't have to fit in so many intervals, I figured we could pull that down. And this is all in an effort to save you some energy so that you can put it into the Thursdays as well.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, you're also, sorry about my dog.
He was bitching.
We're also trying to balance like some seriously long runs at this point as well. So you've got a lot going on that are putting demands on your energy stores. So it's just a matter of, we're trying to keep you maxed out without going over the edge. And it's a dangerous little balancing act we're in here now, because the best thing you can do is give these speed days and your long runs everything you've got. I think we've built up your strength enough at this point where it will do two things. It should maximize your strength. It should maximize your cardiovascular capabilities, and it should make you feel just terrible. Like you should be, this last month, it should be like you should come basically skidding in sideways into the taper. So
this week was, I don't know if so last week it was a down week. And I don't know why this week was to me, it was the hardest one. Now, the video recapping this week comes right after this live stream.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did that on purpose because when I was editing the video, I am complaining like so much. So it's gonna make sense after this. I don't think I've been this tired. Oh God, since there was 1 week when I was training for New York City Marathon with Hanson's where I was like about to I was so, and I can tell I'm tired because I get very how do you say it? Snappy. Like, okay. I am in a bad mood. I'm snappy. I can't tolerate people. Someone does something at work, and I'm like, what the? Like, I'm like really annoyed by the simplest. Yeah. So, and this week was like that. I was annoyed by it. And, like tiny little thing would like annoy me. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm exactly the same way. And especially, I don't know if you're like this, but I'll always get once the taper starts, I become like a germaphobe. I'm like, did you hear that guy? He sneezed. I don't want to get sick before my race. And I'm like,
my husband is sick right now. Well, and I'm like, take the test. I want to know if it's COVID. This morning I was like, he's like, I can sleep in the other bed. I'm like, no, I'm sleeping in the other bed because you already left germs in this one. That's awesome. Yeah, and he's like, well, it's just a cold. And it's like, I don't want to get sick. I'm sorry. So I'm using my son's bathroom. I'm using this bedroom. Yeah, I think it's understandable. But this week I've been more tired than I haven't been this tired in a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let's answer some questions here.
Yeah.
Do most people train a lot of marathon training miles on a track? No, would be the easy question. I think when you get to the stage, the back half of a marathon training cycle, Brian, is when the track becomes a possibility. Basically, what happens is like your speed days, which are we'll just call them Tuesdays. You get a lot of shorter, faster stuff, which can be done just as easily on the roads if you can find a nice flat stretch of road, and you can. The nice thing is about track intervals, the 400, 800, 1600. they're so close in distance to what a quarter, half, and a full mile are, that that those few feet of difference are negligible. So as long as you can count on your watch for consistent distance measurement, then you can do it on the roads just as easily. But a lot of people like the track because and I'm included in that, because the track is so exact in its measurement that it kind of gamifies what you're doing, because you can say, wow, I ran that 400 1 second faster than the last one. You can feel good about yourself, even though the effect that 1 second has on your marathon training is it doesn't
It's
matter.
negligible, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
The good thing about the track too is that you can actually without looking at your watch how like how much you have to push to finish, and like the
You get a
distance you have
visual
left.
idea of I'm in the back half of this lap, so I can go crazy.
Right. You're like, okay, let me push because I'm almost there. So
Yeah,
whereas if you're on the roads, you have to look at your watch.
exactly, yeah, and yeah, I see the track as a game. Like I really enjoy the track. Like a lot of people get intimidated by it, but yeah, if you go in with the attitude of I'm just here to have fun, then
Yeah. Brian's saying the same thing. The track seems like an outdoor treat to me. Right?
yeah,
I'm like, yeah.
exactly. Hey,
Oh, but
hey,
now he's saying treadmill. He's like, he's saying, so maybe not for him. Maybe he doesn't find it. Yeah, maybe he can clarify that. I like going to the track. I find the track, it's just another, and it changes I don't know, it makes the track to me, it's like, okay, it means I'm serious business. Now that I'm on the track.
oh yeah, absolutely,
It just, yeah. Whereas
yeah.
if you're on the road, it's like there's people walking their dog. There might be a kid bouncing a ball. I don't know.
Oh, exactly.
It's
Cars to
different.
avoid.
Yeah.
It's just it allows you to concentrate. So
Yeah.
that's
Because
really nice.
and if there's other people there, they're doing the same thing. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. The only
So,
thing that kind of ticks me off at the track is like when you get people there like with their dogs, and it's like, what are you doing here with the dog? Or the people who don't know that if they're running slower than you, they're supposed to move to one of the other
oh, I hate when people do that. Yeah. In my track, that actually happens on Saturdays. If you go Saturday mornings, there's so many people using it, and there's like legit, there's seniors using the track. So they're just
Yeah.
walking, and it's like, why aren't you on the outer? You should be out. Because then when I'm trying to pass them, and I don't understand why they can't hear me. Like I'm breathing hard. I'm
Yeah.
making a lot of noise. Like just
I guess they got
move.
the hearing aids turned down or something.
I don't know. It's
That would
like
be
I'm
great.
sure
Yeah,
I'm making a lot of noise. So yeah. Hi, Michael. How are
how's it going,
you?
Michael? Yeah, Michael is in the midst of building up towards another sub 25K attempt. So he's probably at the track a lot these days.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So so yeah, that's the first difference in the training. Right now, the track intervals are going to be different, and I am going to really appreciate that mile less. Because the track, to me, I have a love-hate relationship with intervals. I really like them, but then I hate them if I can hit the actual, like if you tell me do 356 and I do 359,
Mm-hmm.
I get like, and you can't do them again. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna try again. No, because then you're tired. Like it
Exactly.
defeats the purpose. You can't just so. So when you nail them, it makes me very happy. But then if you miss, it's like, oh, dang
Oh,
it,
I know.
I missed.
I'm
Yeah.
always very like, yeah. Usually it takes me about a month at the track before I start reaching my potential. Like the times that I'm set as goals, it usually takes me 4 weeks of creeping towards those numbers.
Yeah. And you decreased my time for the
Yes,
third time. So
yeah,
I was like,
very
okay.
much. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because one thing for everybody who doesn't know, that besides getting her March training plan delivered today, Suzie also got her first look at her new paces, which are considerably faster. And I thought that would make a good topic of conversation tonight if you're up for it. But
Yeah. Well, I actually looked at 400. It's like, I can do, it's funny how 400, I feel like I can run the 400s fast. Like I've run 400s. If I'm like well rested and well hydrated, I can do them in like 146 or 148. I can do
Oh, that's
400s.
awesome.
But the 800s, to me, they're hit or miss.
Oh
That's
yeah.
the distance where it's like, I don't know. Like sometimes I run the 800s as slow. So and you've seen this, I do the 400s fast, but then the 800s, I run them at the same pace as I am running the 1600, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I know I can run them faster, but it's a pacing type of
Oh,
situation. It's like,
exactly.
why
Yeah.
am I not pacing myself? I'm running out of space. Like you're running, it's like, okay, time to push. And then you're pushing and you should have pushed earlier. So that's when running on the track helps because you're on the second lap and then you're like, okay, now it's when it's time to push. If you're
Exactly.
doing them on the
Exactly.
road.
And one thing to point out, the reason I always give you sort of ladder workouts where you start with the short, sharp stuff, go to the longer stuff, and then come back down, is after you run your 1600, which is your longest interval, and then you're going to return to 800s and 400s, is at that point, not only are you fully loosened up, and your legs are kind of good to go, but you've also experienced the 400 and the 800 already, so you have a better idea of how to pace yourself. So,
But then I pace myself worse because my second. So see, that's what, like, to me, my pacing is like in the long run this week, I had the 6 miles at half marathon pace.
yep.
So I was trying to, rein myself, like hold back a little bit because I'm like, okay, I want to, if I can, you said half marathon pace. I was like, I had in mind, like, okay, let me see if I can actually hit what we want to do, which in April we want to do 1 hour 53. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can do like an 850 or something like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like holding back, but then I was holding back so much I could not change the pace. And in my first half marathon pace, I completely blew it. So it's like not
Yeah,
even close to that.
I've got your
And I was
Strava
going too
stats for
slow.
that
I was
run.
like, I could.
I've got your stats for that exact run right on the screen behind where the camera is. So I'm staring at them right now, and it's great to hear you say that because yeah, you ran the first mile. I think you were gunning for a.
I wanted to do under 9. So I think you gave me 9:10 or
Yeah,
9:05, but I wanted
yeah,
to do under 9. So in my mind,
there you go,
yeah.
yeah. And yeah, you came in with your first mile at 9:31. Then you dialed it in perfectly with a 9:11. You were like there. And then what I love, and the reason why your half marathon pace for race day is now so much faster, is because you absolutely blew my mind with the last 4 miles of those 6 miles that you're supposed to run at half marathon pace. I mean, you just smoked your pace. Like Mile 3, 9:05. Mile 4, 8:54. Mile 9 levels out again at 9:04, which is still, keep in mind, 6 seconds faster per mile than where you're supposed to be. And then you blew the doors off with 8:53 for the sixth one, which, and that all came after 4 miles of just kind of warm up. So you were not running on fresh legs. So, I mean, that really, really impressed me because not only were you not on fresh legs just because of the demands of the day, but just to reiterate for everybody, Suzie is when you ran that run. Sorry, I'm just going between screens here so I don't misspeak. But that happened in week 11. So you've got 11 weeks of accumulated fatigue in your legs, and you still blew it out. So as a result, not.
I am in the video. I was recording. I'm like, okay, I almost died right there. I was going. I actually was at one point. I could see I had it on so that it was averaging the miles. It was the average pace for the mile, and it was going at one point at 8:40. And I was like, I'm just not going to be able to. I'm going to have to stop. It was so. I was going so fast. I was like, I'm not going to be able. My heart was like
well
pumping.
past even tempo pace at that point.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I can't. So I slowed down like towards the end of the mile. But yeah, at the end, I'm like, okay, I almost died. I almost dropped dead.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things. Just like I watched that that run very carefully as a strong indicator of what you're now capable of. There are runs coming up in the next couple of weeks that I will also be using to measure your current fitness, because even though we are in March and your race is on April 2nd, there's still an opportunity to get in some, what I've been calling sort of that bubble that we talked about way back at the beginning of this whole process, where at the end we're just trying to blow up this bubble that could burst if we're not careful. But the idea is, over a very short period of 4 to 6 weeks, we can expand your cardiovascular and muscular abilities hugely in a very short time by pushing really hard. And so long as you are honest with me and give me feedback immediately if something doesn't feel right, so that we can pull back before we get over the edge, we can really make a huge difference to your speed before race day, even in the few weeks that are left. So
I really want to I am waiting for that, breakthrough in which,
I mean, you've already had one. For you to run an 8:54, 8 miles into a 12-mile run, where you were just, or should I say 14-mile run? Yeah, I just can't see all the miles in front of me right now without scrolling.
It was 14 total. So when I did that, I still had another for miles. And you have to
handled them fine. So yeah, you're an amazing.
But no, it was, the last mile I was running, but I was that you're running really, really slow, because I was looking at my feet and it's like, man, I'm going so slow.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Like the hard part's over. I'm going dead easy now. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I figured if I do 13 miles, 13-minute miles, it's not that horrible, But no, I was going slow. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole point of those last miles is literally just to drain the lactate from your legs and get everything sort of loosened up again. And, speed doesn't matter at all once you've gotten past the workout portion of the run. But
and it's been cold again here, so it's like I'm not getting a break. Like mentally, those tough runs, I think they're awesome for for when you go to a race, because you never know there's always something that goes wrong in a race. I haven't had a single race where everything was like, oh, this was everything was perfect. No, if you don't get a muscle bothering you or cramping, you chafe somewhere that you've never chafed before and it's bothering you the whole race. You're wearing the same thing you've always wore, but it's rubbing you the wrong way. It's not, there's always something. There's always something that it's like, okay. And if there's nothing, you find at least my mind, I always find a way to say, this is bothering me.
Something's going wrong.
Sometimes, it's like your ponytail. I know why, elite runners, they go super with everything, they put product on their, so nothing moves. Yeah. That's why, because even if your ponytail is moving a little bit in the wrong way, it could you get fixated with that and it annoys you the whole race. So that's why they they usually wear it super super sleek.
I'm glad you bring up all the contingencies and all the things that could go wrong, because I don't know if this really fits into the conversation, and I don't want to go into the details of what we're going to cover, but when we are 10 days a week out from race day, I will be inviting Suzie to have a meeting, which I think is probably better done in private as opposed to live streaming it, where we're going to go into tactics, mindset, nutrition, and everything to sort of set your approach to race day to get you set up mentally and physically for race day. And a lot of that has to goes into visualizations of race day, what the time is going to be when you cross the finish line, what it's going to take to get to that, how you're going to feel at the various different stages of the race, what can go wrong, just as you were talking about, so that you mentally can spend a few days, 20 minutes, half hour a day or a night, whatever works for you, where you're picturing not only how everything's going to go right and but also picturing what can go wrong, so that if you drop a gel halfway through the race, if your shoe comes untied, all the little things, if your ponytail goes crazy, if the sock liner of your shoe starts riding up the back of your heel, like all the things that could potentially throw you, if you've been through that in your mind, then it's far less likely to throw off your race if it happens in real life. So these are all the kind of things that I like to run through with runners so that they can be as bulletproof as possible. And like I said, I find it's most effective to go through that kind of race prep meeting 7 to 10 days out, so that it's everything that we talk about is fresh in your head, and you've only got a few days left to sort of put that into practice. We'll also talk a lot about pre-race fueling, the carb loading, and the hydration, the kind of things you want to eat in the 2 or 3 days leading up to race to make sure that you are just feeling light and strong. So with that said, I mean, if you want to talk more about that, we can. One thing I think really important, I need to be at the track more than I am. Michael's.
Yeah, we have a few messages, so I wanted to make sure that I'm not forgetting anybody, missing anybody.
Well, Mr. Jermson stopped by.
Hi. He's always it's late in Singapore. Well, no, it's early because it's 7:30 here, so it's super early. Yeah, he's probably getting ready to go to work. Boom. Actually, in France is like super early right now. No, wait.
It's probably like 7-8 hours ahead.
It's 1:30 at night.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know what you guys are doing awake. Thank you for being here. Yeah. And then Brian again, I just run until I pass out or throw up. You know, the track workouts, I have to say, they usually, and I don't know, do you know why that happens when you're running like fast? I feel like it's not blood, but it's that like chemical.
Metallic taste?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's like a weird.
Exactly, and it's like it is. It's actually the taste of your blood. It's actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's because it's your body's trying to your body is trying so hard. Your heart is trying so hard to push the blood everywhere as fast and as hard as it can to get the oxygen, because you're using up the oxygen faster than your body can redistribute it. So it's just it's just like
So when I know I've gone fast on the track workouts and the intervals, when I can feel that, and it's usually the last interval, it's like, oh God.
yeah. 400s and 800s do that to me. I find that 200s are over before it gets really bad, before the pain really sets in and before the oxygen completely depletes. But yeah,
400s, it's the 400s are my sweet spot. I like doing 400s.
Good for you.
I like them more than any other. Yeah, when I was doing Hal Higdon, he likes 400s a lot. So you do 400s pretty much the whole, whatever you're training for, half marathon, whatever. He always gives you, there's always a day there's either on a hill or flat, but it's 400.
Gotcha.
And that was my favorite day, because it was like, okay, we're doing 400.
That's so cool. Yeah. A lot of people. Speaking of Michael Bartlett, yeah, he's a big fan of doing like 12 by 400s and stuff like that. But yeah, that just destroys me. I can't handle it mentally or physically. Well,
you do a lot of anything though. I mean, 12 400s is a lot.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So another thing we talked about, well, do you want to, you talk first? Because you might have something you want to talk about.
No, I was just going to say, before we get out of here, at some point, I want to talk about fueling, hydration.
I was going to mention that, so we're in sync.
Cool. Because I think that probably is the biggest hurdle for you to come to completely to terms with, and I think once you get it down. Even though you're already running so much faster than you were, 10 weeks ago, I think this could unlock a lot more speed for you. Not the short bursts of speed, not like the track day stuff, but like once we start to get into extended tempo runs and the progression runs and the long runs at aerobic paces that you guys still have left in March before race day, I think you can probably squeeze a lot more out of your performance. If we are hydrating with liquid fuel and if we are, get the gels down just right. I'm very happy. I just want to say that Suzie did report to me that in her last long run, she was able to get down a lot of liquid.
Oh, I was surprised.
So yeah, that is huge because that's the, even though I believe you were drinking water, it's the fact that you were taking in that much liquid and holding it, being able to, not have to like take a break mid-run is just hugely good news.
So I put this,
there you go.
like it's electrolytes, but it doesn't have sugar. So doesn't have a single thing of sugar. It's just electrolytes.
Yeah,
so.
Which is great. I mean, that's, I probably failed to mention that, but yeah, electrolytes, either starch or sugar in the liquid and gels, that combination is kind of like, for longer distance races, the half marathon and up, that's kind of that's what it takes to perform your best. And even though you don't really hit the wall per se in a half marathon, because you've got plenty of glycogen stores in your muscles and your liver to not run out. When you're burning hot, when you're trying to get the best out of your body, it's nice to have sugar and caffeine just in your bloodstream all the time, as opposed to, trying to draw it out of your muscles and out of your liver. If you've got that just flowing through you,
right.
It's a lot easier to continue moving
because
fast.
You don't have to the body doesn't have to extract it. It's right there.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's just constantly being delivered to the muscles that need it.
Yeah. So I took a gel every 2.5 miles. And then I drank the electrolytes. So there was a smidge of water at the end, but it was 18 ounces of water.
Cool.
Because I also fill up the bottle all the way to the top. I don't know if you're supposed to. So, yeah. So, yeah, I drank 14 miles, 18 ounces of water.
Cool. So that, like ideally over 14 miles, I would like to see 28 ounces being taken in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, but also keep in mind, we're in the cooler weather now. So like, that's not as, if we were talking and we were saying, if you were saying, Suzie, it's July 5th, I just went out for a 14-mile run, that's a different story. Then I would be like, oh, you need to take in way more liquid. But, here we are in February. And even though down here in the South, you wouldn't know that it wasn't July lately. But yeah, I think you're within the realm now, especially on race day when, like, a handheld isn't going to hold more than 17 or 18 ounces if that's what you choose to carry with you on race day. That's a good amount of liquid to run with. I think the next step on your next long run, you've got a 12-miler of easy running, which is good news that it's an easy run coming up, because that's less demanding on your stomach. It stresses your stomach less when you're running easy. So it's a good opportunity to start introducing either sugar or starch drinks. Specifically things like, Gatorade is kind of like the, I'm not a fan. I don't
like I personally, yeah.
Yeah, I use Gatorade during the week, like when I go out for like a middle long run or like, something 10 to 15 miles. But once I get into the long run territory, I think starch drinks like Tailwind or UCAN or, you name it. The various different brands that are out there are all good quality. And the advantage they have is that they won't spike your blood sugar the way Gatorade or any kind of sugar drink will, so you're not going through, hey, I've got a lot of energy and I feel like dying every half mile, So that's where I'd like to see you go next, Susie, is now that you are tolerating higher amounts of liquid while you're running, um, especially on these easier runs, it's going to be a lot easier on your stomach to test out the tailwinds or the UCAN powders, so that 2 weeks from now, when you're going out for another 14-mile progression run, you've had the chance to see if it's working for you or not.
Right.
If your stomach
Can you
go ahead.
can you do both? Because I always heard you can't do the goose with like another sugar
Uh,
drink.
yeah, no, that's not true. I've
Okay, that's a
no,
myth.
I've trained my stomach and to the point where um, I do both. I always race with gels and caffeinated tailwind. So yeah, and something to point out here, in case somebody didn't really catch that, is that you can train your stomach. This is not, if you are in a situation, if you're a runner right now that finds you can't handle even sugar drinks or gels, just upset your stomach to the point where you have to stop and your stomach is just killing you, that can be trained over time. It's just a matter of keeping at it. And I would, again, recommend that you do that kind of training on easier runs, because the faster and harder you're running, your body is doing what it can to feed your muscles glycogen as fast as it can, and it makes it more difficult to digest because,
Right.
so if you're running easy, it's much easier to acclimate to in-run fueling. So yeah, the next logical step, I think, for you, Susie, is just, get your hands on some, like the small sachets of Tailwind, like the 200 packet, so that you can try different flavors without having to buy a big old sack of the stuff that costs 40 or 50 bucks. So,
Right.
yeah.
I've tried it before, but I've had it before a race. Like if I'm not remembering incorrectly, actually, I had Tailwind on water before I ran April Fools last year
Oh,
because it
okay.
has, I think, 50 grams of carbohydrates or something. So it was like, I'll have breakfast, and because it's an hour and a half drive into Atlantic City from my house, I'll
Mm-hmm.
sip on the water, and that's another 50 grams of carbs that I have in my body. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great as a pre-run fuel as well, and it's even great in the days where you're carb loading. When you're just hanging around at home for like the 3 days leading up to a race, it's great because, again, just like if you're sitting around and you don't want a sugar spike that suddenly makes you want to fall asleep when you're sitting there watching TV, it's great because what sets Tailwind and UCAN apart is that it's a slow release starch, so it elevates your sugar levels in your bloodstream, but it doesn't all at once and then just go down and then go up and down. It's more of a, because it's a slow release, it takes a while for your digestive system to convert those starches into sugar. It brings your level up and it stays there. And it's a much nicer, more even feeling of energy. So
right.
that's why I always want people to try that before they go into like the the Gatorades.
So how much carbs do you think one should have, I don't know, per hour when you're running? Like if you're
Yeah,
like if you're running a half marathon, you're going, you want a PR, you're like going hard.
yeah. In a half marathon or a marathon, and this varies widely from human being to human being, but there's a window that you have to find out where you fit into it just by trial and error. But anywhere from 250 to 400 calories an hour that you're going to
Oh
be
wow, that's a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Most people can find a happy medium somewhere around, like, for me, it's right around 300 calories. After that, I start to feel bloated, and because I'm getting my calories from liquid and from gels, um, my stomach starts to get sloshy, and that's why I recommend, what I've found is like 1 ounce of liquid every half mile is the perfect amount, because your body can absorb that, you're running hard, you're sweating, even if it's like winter months. If you're out
Right.
there running hard, you're still sweating hard. And 1 ounce, which is like, like not where your mouth is really full, but like you've got a good gulp full.
Right.
Every half mile just works.
Okay, cool. And it's also often enough that you're
You
always
keep those
hydrated.
energy
You're not
levels.
losing, right?
Exactly. You're staying evenly hydrated so that you don't get to the end of the race and just dehydrate and start cramping. And it also delivers enough sugars that your energy levels stay even. So a lot of people make the mistake of, well, I'm not thirsty now, so I'll worry about that in the back half of the race, and by then it's too late. I feel like I say this a lot, but the more runners who hear that, the better. Don't wait until you're thirsty to start drinking, because then you can't catch up. Your body will not be able to digest that and distribute it to all the muscles that need it before you're cramping anyway, and it's too late. So plus your body is more able to absorb that liquid and that fuel in the earlier stages of the race. So.
Right. When you're not as tired too, because I think, I don't know, but when your body's tired, it's probably not functioning properly.
Well, exactly. The more your muscles heat up and the more they're demanding, just like we talked about before, it's for this exact reason. It starts shunting the blood flow away from your digestive system towards the muscles. So whatever is sitting in your stomach at that point, if you've got like this pile of gooey, sugary mess from a bunch of goos, it's just going to keep on sitting there because all of your body's resources are no longer being pushed towards digesting that. And so it just sits there. It makes you feel like garbage.
One thing I started doing is my local dicks, they started carrying Roctane, which is the goose, but I honestly, I feel the difference. Like, I like them a lot better, but it also, I mean, you can tell it has more sugar, more electrolytes, has more of everything. I mean, it feels more, I don't know, it just feels better.
Plus it comes, they usually load them with amino acids, which is very interesting. Hey, Pam's here. My wife just dropped by. She's saying, hey.
Oh, I am. Oh my God, we have so many comments. I am so sorry. We were talking in like completely. Eric is saying, oh yes, I had a, man, I don't have my glasses on and I can't read, so I'm gonna.
You want me to read it out?
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh yes, I had a blister form on a marathon that I hadn't planned for. It ended up bleeding profusely. I take a bandage now with me on long races. Yes, I guess I'm assuming Eric probably made this comment when we were talking about mentally dealing with
what could go wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. And boy, I'll tell you, Eric, in my last half marathon back in November, I wore Nike Vaporfly 2s for the first time in a race. Boy, what a nice squishy, mushy shoe on the midsole. But my ankles were, cut up so badly from the collar around that shoe that I was bleeding and for 3 days.
Oh my God.
It was horrible. So I'm going to go completely off track here, but just because they happen to be next to me, I went out and blew way too much money on a new pair of Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s, and this is what
I was on Kafusi's chat today, the happy hour he does.
Yep.
And people talk a lot about shoes, but people were like, the Vaporflies, the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there's nothing better than the Endorphin Pros. I'm sorry. It's just like the best shoe. They're somewhat affordable. And they're great shoes. They're comfortable. They last. I mean, I bought 2 pairs when I bought them.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going strong. They probably have.
You've got what, the Endorphin Pro V1, right?
I think I have the 2s. I think I have the 2s.
So they've got the same midsole and the same carbon fiber plate. It's a great shoe. A lot of people think they're too firm for going the full distance of a marathon, but for a half marathon, they are so great.
I love them. I don't like soft shoes. That's something I learned really early on. I need a shoe that's, I don't know, like my favorite shoe of all time was the Boston. The Boston, the eights and the nines, my
Yeah.
favorite shoe. And they're, they have a thin sole and they're very flat. So, and I love them.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'm very much a fan of a more responsive shoe. I don't like ground feel so much, but I don't like sinking into a shoe. I like just enough cushion to stop me from hurting, but I like to bounce back off that shoe really quickly. So
Yeah. Very cool. And yeah, we have a lot of people. Chaminda, hey Susie, do you plan to talk about nutrition? We talked a little bit about nutrition. Sorry guys, I'm reading the comments now.
yeah, if you've got any further questions about nutrition, we'd be happy to get to it.
These are IV2. I have a link in the description. So I like IV2, but they don't have sugar. They
Yeah.
have amino acids and electrolytes. Yeah.
Yeah, now that's something to think about too, Susie, because IV2 is such a great source of electrolytes. You may want to consider, like when you're setting up your fuel, when you're mixing your drinks for your next long run, is actually take one of those and add it to the tailwind.
Okay. So you
That
think you
may
can
be
do this too to the tailwind? Like add this to
that
tailwind?
may be overkill, but I'll tell you this: if you're a heavy sweater, like if you sweat
I am a
profusely,
salty. I am a salty sweater.
yeah, then you may want to consider that, because the last thing you want to do is cramp in a race, and it happens to me way too often.
It's happened to me when it's hot. It tends to happen to me. Yeah, it happened to me in New York City Marathon. Actually,
Mm,
I had
yeah,
it such an awful. I had so many expectations for New York City Marathon, and it was just like everything. Yeah, it was just not. I mean, it's a wonderful race. It was just not a good one for me. So,
yeah. I would
and
imagine all those hills would also make it,
oh, it's
just
and
cramping at the
mentally.
same.
I wasn't prepared for the hills. Like in my mind, I didn't think they were going to be that bad. Yeah. It's just, it's a very hilly marathon.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
I'm
at
on a
the end,
winning day. I'll get there.
I think on Strava I had like 3,000 feet of like accumulation. I mean, it's a lot of, yeah. Because there's nothing, the flat portion is Brooklyn and it's at the beginning. After mile 9, you're going up, down, up, down, up, down, and it just kills your legs.
Yeah, the bridges. There's just so many of them.
Too many bridges and everything is hilly. I mean, it's just like when you think you're done, you turn a corner and there's another one. It's like, come on, again? Like, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think
a
New
hard
York is one of
marathon.
those. That's one of those marathons you run just for the energy of the crowds, but it's not a fast marathon. It's never been known to be.
If I had to do it again, I would just, yeah, pet the dogs because there's a lot. I mean, obviously, it's a great. There's people everywhere. I mean, there's other than the bridges, everywhere else there's people. Like, and there's like like 6 people in. It's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I have to, I'm sure you already know this, Susie, but you're going to have to be prepared, because the whole point of us talking tonight, the reason we're here, the reason we're working together is because you are well on your way to earning a berth to the Boston Marathon, which is, even though it is a net downhill course, miles 15 through 20 are notoriously hilly. So you're going to have to be ready.
I'll cross that bridge when I have to. Like, I'll be ready. But now, first we have to qualify. But yeah, I mean, Boston is a great city. I was there for work. I ran through it, and it's like, oh my God, this is such a nice city to like. It's just a nice city to run through.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful. I like Boston. It was my first time, and I really enjoyed Boston. Rich is saying, I use the on cloud. Okay, you need to read this because I don't have my glasses.
Oh, it says Strauss, but I'm thinking that's probably missing a T. I think it's the OnCloud Stratus for my first marathon in New York City, 22. I am currently over 250 pounds. Yeah, it's funny. I've only ever tested out one pair of On shoes ever. They were interesting. But I think they're starting to get away in their latest iteration of shoes, the ones that are coming up, I think for next year, is the first time they're starting to explore a midsole that doesn't have those cutouts. They're little cloud pods, because I think a lot of people see that kind of more as a gimmick than an actual something that works well. So it'll be interesting to see where that company goes over the next couple of years. But I hope they worked for you. I hope they got you through.
Yeah, and there's so much competition, obviously. I mean, like the shoe industry there, it's
Well, the
very
shoe
profitable,
industry
and,
has
and
seen
there's a ton
such
of, yeah.
massive improvements over the last 4 years. It's like, if there are some shoes that I used to love that, I've got like brand new pairs of shoes from 6 years ago that sit in my closet, because at the time I was like, I love this shoe so much, I'm going to hoard them. And I go back and I run in them now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, shoes now are so much better than they were 5, 6 years ago. I just can't go back.
Did you see Kofuzi had a video recently? He was invited to go to Adidas, to the headquarters,
I
and they
haven't
have
watched
a
it, but it's in my
museum.
playlist.
They have a museum with all the old
Oh, how
shoes,
cool.
and he actually shows them on camera. So the track, the spikes were actual, they were leather shoes, and the spikes, you could kill someone with the spikes. Like it was actual metal.
I
It's
remember that
like,
back in the 70s.
who
Yeah.
runs on that? Like, so yeah, it's not, I mean, they used to be leather. Now they are all like synthetic
Oh, yeah.
fibers and
That's what's amazing is you look at those guys who were like, like running like 2:15s in the Boston Marathon 100 years ago. And it's like, and they were doing that. It was basically just had to be brutally painful.
and they were running in cotton, like wearing cotton clothes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But there was no real cushion under their feet. It was just 26 miles of, whew.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if they had, the shoes we have now, the carbon plated shoes, what they would do.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing. It's like, yeah. I mean, if you put some of those, if you put, uh, the name is going to escape me, so I'm going to drop this story until I remember the name. What do we got here? Shaminda says, Suzie, looks like you're blessed with the weather. Sadly, west coast of Canada full of snow. If you get snow, what is your plan to complete the required runs?
Oh, so he brings up a really good point because it's snowing right now.
No
No, I
way.
don't think it's gonna stick. But when I was coming upstairs, we had a skylight, and the skylight was starting to get like a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna stick.
Oh
It's
boy.
possible I can't do the track. I might have to do it on the treadmill, which I don't like. So what I can do though is if it's not clean or if it's icy in the morning, I can do it at lunchtime. It's not ideal because I'm stiffer because I've been sitting,
Yeah,
working,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I can do that. I can change it because I don't know if Chamina knows this, but I work from home, so I can basically, take my lunch break. Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of at 12, I can do it at 1 or even 1:30 and just get the run done then. So,
Yeah. And the nice thing is, like you said, you do have a treadmill at home. So if
and I do
worst case
have the
scenario,
treadmill,
yeah.
which is what I've noticed with the treadmill. And I don't know if you know, I think it's probably because it's less effort. My heart rate is not as high as it is when I run outside. At the
Yeah.
same speed, it's a good 15 beats less.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think it's probably just because you're on dead even ground. You know what I mean? Like on the treadmill, it's kind of like you don't have to deal with undulating, roads. So,
And the wind, I don't know. It's like even if I'm pushing, like I'm going as fast as I can. If I'm like going really fast, I can put my heart rate goes. My heart rate is something. So my heart rate can go really really low. Like when I'm sleeping, it goes super low sometimes.
oh,
But
well,
then,
that's the first sign of a runner. It's like, yeah, when I
but
go to the
when I
doctor, the first thing, especially if I'm seeing a new doctor or something, or a new nurse comes in to do the blood pressure thing or whatever, like that's the first thing I always get if they don't know I'm a runner already, is like, wow, you're close to death or something. It's like, no, I'm a runner. Like, I'm a runner. I'm supposed to have 40 beats a minute.
Yeah. No, my heart rate goes really low, not 40 beats per minute though. But it goes low. And then when I'm running, it goes like super high. Like if I'm doing not in the intervals, because it doesn't really push that high because you're resting in between the intervals. So, but on the half marathon pace run this weekend, I think I got like a 182. Like towards the end, it was 182. So it goes high.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but if I'm running, like pushing the pace on the treadmill, I'm like going really, really fast. I'm like, okay, let's see how fast I can go without dying on the treadmill. It never goes over like 170.
That's awesome. Now, do you
So
keep because I know your treadmill's in your basement, so is it like, do you keep it cool down there, or?
it is cold. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. The
always so
basement is
helpful.
cold. Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. It's in a good spot. Yeah. And treadmill.
Yeah.
It's in the same spot. When we bought the house, there was a treadmill there. We bought the house, they
Oh,
took their treadmill, and then I put mine. So it's like the same exact spot.
so
And
Larry did
there's
his
a thing
homework
right up
then.
there. It just gives you, the air conditioning in the summer too. So it's just in the perfect. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. And your wife is here.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay, there's a conversation going on amidst
yeah,
everybody
about
in the
the
chat.
the
So,
on clouds.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I know a lot of people wear them to walk in them.
Oh, okay,
Because
that's
I've seen people just walking in my neighborhood, and they wear the Yonklas, and I was like, they must be good walking shoes because a lot of people wear them.
yeah, that and Hoka does a lot of business for people who walk
Oh,
and stand a lot.
yeah, and I always think like, how long are they gonna last you? Like if you're walking, Hokas can last you 3 or 4 years because they're
Oh,
durable shoes,
yeah.
and you're not putting a lot of miles because when you're walking, obviously you can't put. I mean, when you're a runner, it's easy to put a ton of miles on your shoes because you're running. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, but like,
you
yeah,
run 30 minutes every day, you put a lot of, but even if you walk 30 minutes every day, how much, I mean, you're going to put a mile and a half. They're going to last, those Hokas are going to last forever.
oh, yeah, but there are even a lot of like nurses and doctors who wear like they'll put on a pair of Bondis and just walk in them all day.
It's
Put
like, yeah.
20,000 steps on them every day, type of thing. So,
My brother-in-law, he's a mailman. He walks, I mean, he's on a car, but he walks quite a bit. He wears Hokas. But that's
yeah,
all he wears. Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. So there's a conversation going about Canada as well. So I imagine it's probably pretty cold.
Yeah, Pam
And you
came to
guys live in
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah, Pam was living with me in Toronto for a year before we came down here to North Carolina. So,
Yeah, I love Toronto. It's like one of my favorite cities.
yeah, in the
There's
summertime
something
only. Don't go in the winter.
I've only been there in the summer, but that island, Toronto Island. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's like it has everything. This tiny little island. It has an
yeah,
amusement park for little kids. It has the beach.
yeah,
It
yeah.
has
I've spent a lot
boats
of
on
time
the
with Pam
lake.
out there. Yeah, it's a really fun place.
Restaurants. There's restaurants there that you can. I mean, it's just like it has everything. It's perfect. I like Toronto, but I've only been there in the summer, so. But yeah, there's a conversation here going on. So I wanted to ask you. So we're gonna put this on top of the tailwind.
Yeah, I would. You know what? Save that for March 11th when you're doing a 14-mile progression run. What I think you're probably best off doing this coming long run next week, where it's just 12 miles easy. Just do tailwind by itself, just to see if your stomach can handle that straight up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then, because if we start mixing right off the bat, we won't
Then
have a
and
stopping issue.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And the goose as well, or just the tailwind.
No, go full on with the
Okay.
gears and that, because unfortunately we've got like 3 long runs left before we
I know.
start into taper mode. So we have to make the most of those 3 long runs. So because I really want to. You're performing so well now. Your speed has gotten so significantly better, and your ability to hold that speed for long periods has increased so much over the last 10, 11 weeks, Suzie, that I think the next best way to bump it quickly to that next level is getting the fueling right. So yeah, don't hold back with your fueling over the next 3 long runs.
Okay, I won't. Yeah.
Because yeah, I've had other runners recently who you are aware of, who it's night and day. Like yeah, I have other clients that have very recently, I've sort of overturned their fueling regimen, and I just can't believe the difference it's made. It's like it's turns one of my clients from a mid-pack runner into somebody who's going to start really posting some amazing times. So.
That's so awesome. I'm happy because I know who he is. I'm happy for him. Yeah. And Tamin is asking question to both of you. When you're running and you have to stop to cross the street, do you stop the watch or I let the watch run?
Do you? Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm very careful. Well,
unless I'm stopping. Like if I have to go to the bathroom or but if it's just crossing the street, typically what I do, so I just ran it through Charleston. So when I could not cross the street, I just keep going and cross when it opens. Like I keep going because I didn't have to, I wasn't really going anywhere. It's just whatever, I can so I would, if it's red, I would keep going on the sidewalk and then just crossing it when it's open, when it's green on the next corner. So that's usually what I do. But no, if it's gonna turn green and I have to stop for like 20 seconds, I don't stop the watch.
Yeah, no. I mean, for me, it depends. If I'm in the middle, also keep in mind, I'm in a very suburban is kind of overstating it. It's like verging on country where I am, where I do most of my runs. So it's the only time I ever have to stop for a light is to cross like a fairly major road. and that could take a minute or a minute and a half of waiting. And that's usually in the midst of a long run when I'm sort of going where I can't find a route that doesn't just allow me to just run continuously the whole time. So, yeah.
I don't know. And when I was training with my friend Ginger, when we were training for Atlantic City Marathon, we would do the long runs in there's a big reservoir in New Jersey. So we would run around and every loop was 5. So we kind of knew, so it's 5, and we would do the loop first this way, and then the other way we would turn around. So we would
just
do it.
Keep it interesting, yeah.
Just to keep it interesting, and also because going one way, they had more elevation than coming the other way. So we wouldn't want to put a ton of elevation if you do them always. So we would do them first with elevation, and then coming back, it's kind of going down.
I got you.
But we would stop every 5 miles. We would stop to drink water at the car, and she would stop the watch. And I would not stop it. So then she would be like, how much time? What's our pace? And my pace would always be slower than hers just because I didn't stop it. But I was like, if I stop it, I have an excuse to stay here longer because I stopped the watch. But if I don't stop it, I'm enticed to keep going. It's like, I can't, because I don't want to see it but she would always say how much did my pace? Our pace was 9:45. It's like, no, it's not 9:45. It's like 10:10 now. It's like, because you stopped the watch. And she was like, well, but we were not running. It's like, yeah, but if you're in a race and you stop to drink, completely stop.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not.
Your finish time is your finish time. That's right. Yeah. So no, I usually don't stop it unless again I'm stopping for the bathroom and it's going to be longer than.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just kind of, if I know something's going to take me 5-10 seconds, then I just leave the watch alone. But one thing I do want to point out, just because it's a good opportunity to just put a little bit of information out there for everybody who's watching, is if you're out on a long run and you need to take a break for water or whatever, if nature calls, whatever the case may be, don't take a break for longer than 5 minutes. Otherwise, that kind of, it has physiological effects that you're not going to get as many benefits from the run if you're stopping for chunks that are like 5 minutes or longer. Try to you want to be running as much and as consistently as possible when you're going out on those long runs.
Right. That's actually, I was actually wondering because the other day, you know how I was having issues with my watch was not connected to my phone. It wasn't connected to the GPS, like to the satellite. It was like, what's going on? Um, so I actually stopped because I was like, okay, let me delete the whole workout and then upload it again. And I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, but if I do this, then how much, like it takes you a while. So I was like, maybe the workout is not effective now because I'm like doing all this and I don't even know how much. But that was the one that we scratched and I did the following day.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, it was last week was not a good week for me. Like,
Well, you do, maybe not in life, but I'll tell you what, as far as your accomplishments with your workouts, your workouts don't reflect the difficulties that you're having in general, I think. And once again, I refer to the workout that I'm staring at on the screen behind the camera, where you just destroyed that 6 miles at half marathon pace. Yeah, I mean, you're looking really good. I think you are right where you need to be as far as where your training is, and I, of course, judge everything by the fact that you're on tired legs, that you're 10 weeks into like a 14, 15 week training cycle. And once we get this fueling dialed in, Suzie, this is going to be awesome. I'm just so looking forward.
yeah, I always get such a boost when I talk to you because I get like,
Yeah, it's very easy to get down. I do the same thing because I'm in the middle of a training cycle for a marathon, which
I was going to ask you
over
about that.
2.5
Did
weeks
you
out.
bring it up?
Yeah, and I think everybody's the same way. It's very easy to get caught up in well, what if I had done this? I feel so tired right now. All that stuff, and it can distract you from the fact that you put in a lot of work and looking at your training with objective coach's eyes, you're well on your way. I mean, if you don't mind sharing what your current half marathon PR is.
Oh, it's 2 hours 3.
Okay.
2 hours 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I did it. So this is the interesting thing. I would say my two best races ever were two races that I did not intend to race at all. So the first one was Broad Street. I actually got an entry because they canceled during COVID and they signed me up for the following year. They transferred the entry. So I was like, I'm going to run it. I wasn't training specifically for Broad Street. It's a 10 miler. I was in the middle of the cycle for New York City Marathon. I didn't taper. It was just a 10 miler. So I'm like, okay, it's a 10 miler. It's all net downhill. Let's see what I can do. And I did it in 1 hour 31, which was like unbelievable. I didn't even like try to race it. I was just going, like smile on my face.
So if you ran that kind of time on tired legs, wow, imagine if you were taking.
So that was a great race for me. And again, to me, it was like, oh, wow, this was awesome. And then April Fool's, when I ran it last year, it was in the middle of the cycle for Brooklyn. So I was training for Brooklyn half marathon. And I think I was on my week 11. And it was the same thing. I just ran it as an assisted. I was like, okay, I'll treat it as a training run because I think I had a 14 miler that week on the plan. So I was like, I'll treat it as, I'll just have water there and I'll carry my goose. And I did 2 hours 3. So, and that's my PR. It just came like unexpected. Yeah.
So I was the same course 2 years in a row. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was like, I was like, I don't know. It was not a particular, I mean, it was raining, it was windy. It was not a particular, it's not like, everything, the stars align, and it was like a good day.
There's something to be said about just sort of race day conditions, just the excitement. It gets your adrenaline going, and there's something about having a crowd around you of other people pushing as hard as they can. That's sort of, obviously, it has that effect on everybody of just making you try that much harder.
Yeah. So April Fool's this year, I am hoping that it's a great course because it's an out and back. There's only one loop. There's only one turn, so you're not wasting time
Yeah.
turning the corners, left and right. It's just boardwalk, and then you get into the street, and then at the end of the street, basically, it's a big avenue. You turn around and come back, and that's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Just take it easy on that hairpin because, yeah, just be careful of your ankles. Those are just, I hate hairpin turns like that.
I'll probably just go. I'm gonna go all out. Like it's gonna whatever.
Turnaround is all I ask.
What I can do. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, April Fools for me was. But I wasn't expecting to IPR, and I was like, oh wow. I was not. At the end, I kind of distinctly knew. Okay, I'm doing a good race because I could. There was a guy with the 2 hour 5, the pacer. Mm-hmm. He was on his own. For some weird reason, no one was going with him. It was a 2 hour 5 pacer. So I kind of caught up with him. And when I left, I was with my friends, and we were at the end of the, like at the back of the pack when we started the race. And then I picked up the pace, so I was going faster than my friends. And I passed them, but we were like the last runners. Out of like the 1,000 runners, we were like kind of at the end because we were talking. So when I saw the pacer with the 205, I was like, oh, wow. Like, because my best to that point was 209. So I was like,
wow.
Wait a minute. I made the calculation. I was like, so if I'm approaching the 205 pacer and we started at the end, I have to be like a 204, 203. Like, so then I just crossed with him. I ran with him probably the last mile. Which was hard. Like he was like going, because he was.
This begs the question, as far as we're going to discuss this in detail. Like I said, 7 to 10 days out from race day, but just to share with everybody on the live stream, as far as your planning for race day this year, are you planning to like hang out with a 2 hour pacer or the 155 pacer or anything like that? Or you just want to just run your own race?
I think I might just want to run my own race, to be honest. If I see them and I can do that. It depends, but I think I should be my own, with my own. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that because I'd like you to be, one thing we'll talk about is just kind of, this is your best friend on race day. Just,
right.
Get on pace and stay there is what I always tell my runners.
Yeah. So. And for April Fool's last year, it was just because he was there, and I kind of in our, in small races, sometimes you're running and there's no one close to you. So it was just the 205 pacer, and then it was me. So I was like, let's see if I can catch up to him. And then we crossed again the last mile. It was an easy pace for him because he was clearly talking to me, and I was dying. Like at that point, I was like, okay, let's get it done. But yeah, and I have him on camera and everything. He's talking to me, and I'm barely even understanding what he's saying. I mean, wow. He was saying, let's go, let's keep going. But for him, it was easy. For me, I was like, yeah. Of course, but that's when I noticed that I was going to PR. I was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to PR. Let's just kind of coast with him. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's so cool. Yeah, it'll be nice because the 205 and I think even the 2 hour pacer this year, I think you'll put them behind you and never see them again. So this should be pretty exciting.
It is. I think it's the perfect race to PR because there's not a lot of people. It's there's concentration at the beginning because everybody comes out, and there's a lot of people there. But even then, the boardwalk in Atlantic City is big. It's not a small boardwalk. So even with a ton of people, people spread out. Yeah, there's space to run your race. You don't bump into anybody. It's just the perfect.
Yeah. And we'll talk about tactics as far as where I want you to place yourself, how far back in the starting gate, and all that stuff. Because you're going to be well faster than the majority of runners out there. So I don't want you sort of.
It's a fast race, though. There's people there. So when I crossed the finish line, I had to wait for my friends, and then I met. I actually met Ginger, my friend Ginger. I met her at the finish line. We started talking to each other. That's how we met. We met at that race. And she was like, I'm waiting for my friend. He went to get changed. We think he actually won his age group, like I think it was 45 to 50. He finished the race in 117 in the
Nice.
45 to 49. And he didn't even place. I think he was
Oh
like
wow.
10th
So it is a
or
fast
something
race.
like that.
Makes
So
a
it's
lot
a
of sense
very
for me.
fast race. Yeah.
Very
We were
cool.
surprised because I was like, oh, I know someone who's actually going to place in a, 1,000 people. It's a decent, I mean, to place, you're not placing in a race with 100 people. You're placed in your age group in a,
A large field.
semi, yeah, it's like 1,000 runners.
That's really cool.
But
That's
no,
great.
I think he was 10th. And I could not believe it. But the guy who won, I think, I want to say he did 103. The
Yeah.
guy who won.
Yeah.
So I mean,
That's a
that's
large distance
legit.
race.
Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah, the fastest half marathon I've ever run had a winner running a 107. So yeah, it's like, but
No,
103.
it's a fast. Yeah, there's a running club in Atlantic City that has like super fast people in that
Yeah,
club. Like
yeah. I mean,
really
that's
like
a great
serious.
route. It's so flat. Yeah,
It's next to the water, low pressure, low air pressure.
yeah.
The other thing that kills you is the wind. If there's wind,
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I remember when you ran you ran the
the full
full?
marathon, the
Yeah,
Atlantic City
you had to
Marathon.
win that day. Wow.
Well, that day was, we had everything because it was warm at first. Actually, it was kind of warm at the beginning. Then the wind came, then the rain came, and at the very end, the rain, it was like, it was not raining this way, it was raining sideways. It was like,
Yeah,
it was
terrible.
so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And then, of course, I had, that distress. So, stomach, it was like looking backward, back in time, it's one
Yeah.
of those races that if I had that, I really don't think I should have raced. I should have just ran it. But
Yeah, it was a
I
rough
think
day. It was a really rough day. But I mean, I'm hoping that's kind of like all the bad karma in one race and get all that out of the way.
I scratch it. Yeah, it's like this happened and it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I kept thinking I'm gonna have. There's a YouTube video. It's not a marathon. It's one of those people that walk fast. It's an Olympic
Oh, like race walking.
race walking. So, but he actually, I guess he had gastrointestinal. It's on YouTube, and he's like crossing the finish line, but you can tell he was like going to the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
I
really
picture
scared you
myself,
too much.
this is going to happen if I don't stop soon. It was so bad. Oh my God.
I've heard
It's,
stories from elites about that where they just kept going. It's like too bad.
oh,
I'm so close to a PR, so I'm just gonna go anyway.
there's there's a video of Paula Radcliffe when she PR'd. She has the world record for the marathon in London. She
Mhm.
actually stopped to pee in the middle of the. And if you put it on YouTube, Paula Radcliffe London Marathon pee, you'll see it. The
Yeah,
cameras caught her and everything. She didn't shy away. She didn't find a porta potty. She just
yeah,
went
drive
there.
down, right? Yeah,
She
exactly.
just dropped on the ground. And they're actually commenting, the guys who are like, it's like, Paula Radcliffe just stopped. She peed and she keeps going.
Yeah, you would hope the editors would had a little more tact than to let that make it to the air.
No, 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 no. And it's on YouTube. I mean, yeah, for everybody to see. So, yeah.
I'm just
Okay,
taking a
let's
look
see. We
through the
have,
chat here. Let's see. There's one here, a couple above that. How many kilometers per year do?
oh, do you have to
Um,
run to get ready for a marathon? That's a good question. I don't think you need a lot to run a marathon. Now, do you want to run it well or not?
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if you just want to survive a marathon, um, I still wouldn't do it. Even if your plan was to like run, walk, or even walk it, I wouldn't do it unless you were. I have to do my conversions here from miles to kilometers, but I really wouldn't do it. I wouldn't even consider a marathon, even to walk it without like 30 kilometers a week. If you want to enjoy a marathon and not feel like you need to go to the hospital when it's over, if you want to run a good marathon and run it or walk it, I'd say you really want 40 to 45 miles a week, which what does that work out to?
70 kilometers, 65 to 70
Yeah,
kilometers.
yeah, I think, and I'm, as a coach, I err on the side of I don't want anybody getting involved with a marathon if you haven't put in the work to be able to enjoy it and to understand what a beast the marathon is. Do a 5K, 10K, half marathon. Build your way there, and you'll know what it takes. By the time you finish your first half marathon, you'll have a pretty good idea of what you need before you get to the marathon distance.
Yeah,
To go
marathons are
past the
a beast.
marathon it's just asking a lot of your body. It's asking a lot of your body.
Yeah. But the people who do Dopey, for example, they do it on
Yeah, I can imagine.
50 miles a week. If you follow like the Galloway program, I don't think he has people doing more than 50, like on peak. But he has them training for like 32 weeks, I think it is.
Yeah, so you're made out of steel by the
So
time
you
you get
start,
there.
yeah, and then, yeah, so it's like, yeah. I mean, you can, it's just that you have to pick. Do you want to run it fast or do you want to, if you do it slow enough?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. As long as you've experienced enough miles in training that you kind of have some clue of even what 15 miles feels like, then, otherwise, I mean, the marathon will tear you apart. Like,
Oh, and spit you out. Yeah. Chew you up and spit you out.
yeah, it's not, walking a marathon is hard. Put it that way. Never mind running fast, but yeah.
Yeah. And then I think Rich is the last question. Suzie is going to put on the famous Boston Marathon jacket very soon.
Absolutely.
I hope so. Yes.
Suzie is well on her way. I think the confidence level, Suzie, that you exhibit and that you feel inside is going to go way up after April 2nd. I think that's the first time you're going to know in your heart that you're going to Boston.
I want to do it, and when I'm like struggling with a workout, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, I can't do it, and I think it's not. You can't say you can't do it. You have to do it if you want to go to Boston. Like you have to. Like you have to do it. So when I'm struggling, that's always what comes to my mind. It's like, don't be a wuss. You can't say you can't. Like when I was running the half marathon pace, I was like, okay, I have to be able to run this pace because I'm going to go to Boston. I need to. Like this is not. This is it. I have to do it.
Exactly. The more you suffer in your training cycle, the easier race day is. It's as simple as that. And it doesn't matter if you're hitting the paces, as long as you're coming close. It's the iterative nature of training. You get closer to the goal with each week. If you could easily run those paces when your legs are tired and your whole body's tired in the middle of a training block, then you wouldn't have to practice anymore. You wouldn't have to train anymore. But it's supposed to be really, really hard when you're tired. But when you're well rested with a well formatted taper, by the time you get to race day, what used to seem really hard only seems a little bit hard on race day.
Yeah, it should be when you run a marathon. It should be that the marathon is not the hardest thing you've done. My marathons for me have been hard. Well, not all of them.
Hard for everybody. Nobody gets to mile 22 of a marathon thinking this is so easy.
But if you're trained, like when I ran Philadelphia Marathon with my brother, I was like, to me that was slow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to brag, but like to me, I was well trained. I mean, Atlantic City Marathon was not the race I wanted, but I was, we did 5:20. I think we did 5:27.
Yeah.
So to me, I wasn't even sore because to me, 5:27, that's, if you're well trained.
Exactly. exactly. And you've been running for so many years, and you've been like, consistent, very consistent from year to year, from training block to training block. So of course, yeah, 527 wouldn't phase you all that much. But yeah, I mean, but that's what you're doing now. I think you're taking serious steps towards pushing that upper limit. So,
Right.
yeah,
But
I think,
like I've heard people say, when they're like struggling at the end of the marathon, they say, this is hard, but all the weeks leading to this, those were hard. Like the training should be
exactly.
harder than running the marathon itself.
Exactly. And the thing is, to try to keep perspective, because no matter who you are, if you're trying to run a competitive marathon, the last 6.2 miles is going to be you fighting off the negative thoughts, because your body's going to be really, really uncomfortable. And it's just a matter of realizing that, yeah, you've been here before. In a half an hour, you will have crossed the finish line, and you'll be eating a piece of pizza and you'll be happy.
The
So just
beer.
keep that in mind. No matter how bad it is, it's almost over.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the pain, again, when I'm suffering, I'm like, I can't do this. I think that you can't say that you can't. You have to. I mean, this is what you have to do to get to what you want to do, which is qualify. So, and more, like the other day I was thinking, like I talk to myself a lot when I run. I don't know if you do this, but I have like a person here and a person here.
Exactly.
And I was like, you can't do this. Yes, you can. No, you can't. You have to run even faster to qualify for Boston. Oh, shut up. Okay, push.
Exactly. But the thing is, it builds. It builds. What the amount of effort and the amount of suffering that you do when you are a 5-hour marathoner is exactly this kind of suffering and discomfort that you feel when you're a 3-hour marathoner, when you're a 2-hour and 10-minute marathoner. What we experience in discomfort, in pain, in mental anguish, it's the same across the board. It's just a matter of learning how to quiet the mind. As long as you've had enough experience in your training to realize, yes, this hurts. My calves are killing me. My hamstrings hurt. My quads are burning. But when you've done that week after week after week, you start to realize, yeah, but it's supposed to feel that way. I'm not about to die. Nothing's going to go horribly wrong. I'm not well on my way to a hospital. This is just the way it feels. Just put up with it for a little while longer, and it makes all the difference in the world. It's all about the experience.
Right. Very good. Well, I don't think we have any more questions. This is lovely, as always. I enjoy our talks a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered all the bases, and just kind of had some just fun, just talking about past races and all that kind of stuff along the way. So, Suzie, I'm looking forward very much to talking with you privately about the race prep. When we're like a week out. But yeah.
I'm excited. I didn't have a good last week, but I'm excited.
And I warn you, it's very much this next month is going to be probably just as tough as that last week was for you. You're going to be tired. You're going to get irritable. You're going to be very sore. But keep in mind that every time that I ask you to run fast, whether it's for short intervals or for longer tempo efforts or for long runs that have to get faster as you go on, it's all in service of April 2nd as a stepping stone to Boston. And I can see Rich just dropped another comment, BQ, 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 go Suzie. It's coming. Yeah. No doubt about it. I have all the faith in the world in Suzie. She's got that BQ. Before this year is out, she's going to Boston.
Very nice. Thank you so much, everybody who came to the live stream, and most especially, thanks, Coach. You're the best.
Well, thank you for saying so. But, Suzie, it's an absolute pleasure coaching you, because you put in the work, and you always get it done. And whenever you're busy with real life, you're always so deeply concerned in making sure that you keep up with the training, that it's an absolute pleasure being your coach. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Merci, Sylvain. I'm
Bye-bye,
practicing my
everyone. Thank you
French.
for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.